Hello, everyone. Welcome to ForcedToPod, a Force of White production. My name is Saxon, but you can call me Sack. Joining me tonight, I have the man who knows no stranger nor pepper too spicy. Well, maybe just a couple of them. Nick, how you doing, man?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I was just telling Walker before you hopped on, getting a little bit of those pre-trip jitters. Honestly, it's mostly just about like, okay, what am I going to need? And just trying to just suss all that out. But I'm also remembering we're not going to, I mean, we can get anything we need when we're
Right.
traveling. So
I was
Yeah.
gonna say my general philosophy while Kristen's panic packing a week before we go on a trip, and I don't pack until the night before, is that like she goes, "What if you forget your toothbrush or something?" I'm like, well, they have stores where we're going. I can go buy a new toothbrush.
absolutely. And last but
See,
not least, oh,
go ahead. You give me my introduction, but I have a comment for that.
all right, sounds good. We have the man who would rather be always outside than wherever he is right now. The man, the myth, the legend, the one and only I am the mountain man. Walker, what are your thoughts on traveling and preparing for the big day?
I have strong thoughts.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not that strong. I believe that you should be able to go anywhere you want for as long as you want. I'm one of those one bag people.
Yep.
Keep it as limited as possible. But oftentimes I'm going places without stores, so there is stress to bring your toothbrush.
Well,
Yeah.
even if you didn't for a week in the woods, your teeth aren't gonna fall out. You just got to brush them good when you get home.
Well, they're not going to fall out unless you like hit them with a rock or something. But that's a
Well,
whole
yeah,
other story.
yeah, the toothbrush isn't gonna help. So
Yeah.
No, no, probably not. That's my professional
Nope.
opinion.
Yeah.
what
But
you need in
I'm
that
kind of with
case
you.
is iodine tablets, so you can swish out your mouth
Your
wound.
blood, your mouth blood. Yeah, iodine's probably decent as a toothpaste. Although your teeth would probably get stained like that brown yellow. Be heinous.
They have
Yeah,
whitening toothpaste on the back end that you can do it. Basically like clean it up in post, something like that. So
yeah.
um
Clean it up in post.
yeah.
But no, I hear you. That's good. Keep your pack light and your toothbrush at hand
I would
for
love to
work
say
and
that's what
business
we're
of the day.
doing. I can't say that's what we're doing. I'm trying my best. So we went through the worst like hour of my month probably was when Heather locked me down and said, "Hey, I need you to try on every outfit you're planning on wearing because we're just not going to have like space to mess this up, things of that sort." And so going through, I hate that process of just like taking everything off, putting it on, her telling me like that's not, that's not good, that's whatever. But we got there. We've pared everything down. We went through, looked at the different things we were pulling. We X'd a couple of items out. We're like, hey, you can just rewear this, whatever. The problem is, boys, I'm a homebody. Like I'm cool to travel, do whatever, but get me back home 3-4 days. Ideal situation. That's how I am. Like 4-day weekend trip. That's great. Come back, do whatever. We're going for 17 days.
That's a long trip, my
So
man.
Yeah, that's at
I'm
least 3 pairs of pants.
yeah, at
No, two.
minimum.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like I'm already the dude who packs like a 2-day trip. I'm packing like I'm crapping my pants like 5 times. Like I'm bringing so many pairs of underwear, whatever. Like I don't know, and I always just put them back in my drawer. Like I get back and I just keep my cleans and dirties separated in my suitcase, whatever. But I'm not going to be able to do this time, and so we're going to have to go do laundry. We're going on a cruise while we're over there, so we're going to have the ability to kind of like settle in, do that, whatever, and then go. But it's just going to be I'm going to have quite a few stories when I come back. So hopefully you guys are eagerly awaiting that. But
So
should be
my
interesting.
react, I mean, that's gonna. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to hear about it. But my reaction is like almost less stressful if you're going for so long because you have to do laundry, and so like,
Sure,
what's the big
that's
deal
fair.
anyway, right?
That's fair. I
But
I just don't know what that laundry situation is, if that makes sense. Like, I'm assuming it's a very realistic thing. Get in there. They say you can do it, right? And Heather's telling me, he's like, yeah, you can do it on the boat. What does that actually look like logistically?
I have no idea. Good luck.
No clue.
I'm very excited to learn about cruise ship laundry. Is it one of those like river cruises, or is it like in the Mediterranean or
Mediterranean. It's on the
Mediterranean. That's gonna be
Mediterranean. So
awesome.
what's interesting is we're flying into Venice, and then we'll be on the boat, and we're actually going to kind of touch down a lot of different places that are not in Italy. So we're going to Croatia,
Ah,
um,
yes.
Greece. I don't. Is Dubrovnik a city in one of those places? I'm not
It
sure.
is a city in Croatia.
Okay.
I'm almost certain.
So I know that's one of the places we're stopping,
Yeah.
going to kind of hitting an assortment, and then we're going to dock once again in Rome, and then we're going to spend some days on the tail end there. So, yeah, I, yeah, we'll talk way more about it in a few weeks and stuff. So we don't need to kind of linger right now, but I'm excited. As all get out and stuff like that, and so, yeah, just trying to see. Her parents flew out today, so we are going with my in-laws. And they flew out today. They're going to spend an extra day in Venice ahead of us, and we're leaving tomorrow. So should
Sweet.
be great.
Let's go.
Well, here's a fun fact for you. Every single pair of underwear I own is made specifically to be able to be washed in a sink, just in case.
Okay, I didn't know there were specific requirements for that. I thought it
Yeah,
was
they're great.
more. I thought
It's
it
the
was more
ex
if the
officio.
sink could handle it than if the underwear could handle it.
No, ex officio. Sponsor me, please. God, I love you. They
Interesting.
make the greatest underwear, and every pair of underwear can last at least 4 days. Front, back, front, inside out, back. Easy peasy.
Huh.
Huh.
No
Interesting.
problem. Sponsor me.
I've
Hey, maybe someday.
I've spent a lot of time, like several years in a row for a couple weeks during the summer. I would go on a somewhat mandatory trip to some sort of military training ground. And most of those times I worried not about cleaning any of my stuff because we were just going to be sleeping in tents or the dirt or whatever for 10 days at a time. So maybe that's part of why I'm not packing heavily at any point in time. Because if it really comes down to it, this is what I have. I'm going to deal with it.
You're grungy, you're wearing it.
Yeah, it's whatever. Like the last time I
Maple-
went, the last year I was in, we spent a month at Fort Polk in Louisiana, and 2 weeks of that was like doing a fake war training thing. And it got to the point where like people's uniform pants were just completely, black, just with dirt and all the stuff, dust. And I remember one day my buddy and I were like, we had this trailer that we kept equipment in, and it had a canopy over it. We had the bed folded down and like the tailgate, and we were sleeping in there, and our legs were like on the tailgate, and it started raining. We just used that as an opportunity to like rinse out all of our dirty uniforms and hang them up and dry them afterwards. We're like, oh, good, we got a shower.
We
Nice.
when I was between my junior and senior year of high school, I went on a mission trip to Mexico, and this that's a whole different discussion on the viability and whether or not they should have let a lot of youth go to this area of Mexico. There's a lot of information I'd almost have to like pull back up to know exactly what was going on, because a lot of it was kind of like almost like shielded from me, like the safety regards, if that makes sense. So for reference, like the group that we went through, they would do this like in season. So they do like 3 trips to that area, and they canceled that trip right after we got back. They're like, nope, we cannot do that anymore. However, we slept in tents for the entire week we were there, and they had buckets. Basically, they had just pallets on the ground, and they just used a bunch of pallets, basically created showers, put tarps up and everything. And then we just had buckets that had essentially like a false bottom on it, and they would just fill it up with water mixed with bleach. I'm not even kidding. And we would just kind of like pull the bottom out a little bit and let a little bit of the water out, and you'd be able to like wash your hair and stuff. That was the gnarliest like outdoors experience. I am far from that guy. Like that is not, being able to rough it in that regard. So, yeah, that was quite interesting.
We had when I was at AIT, which for people who don't know, for the Army, you go to basic training. It's 8 to 10 weeks, depending on when you went in the past, right? Mine was, I think, 10 weeks. Then I went to it was called AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training. It might be called something different now. I don't know. It's where you learn to do your Army job. And we had a similar thing at the end where we went out for 2 weeks and like did, army trainings and acted like you were doing important stuff. And it was in Georgia, in Augusta, Georgia in the summer. So it was very hot and sweaty. And then everybody had, you're wearing like, bulletproof vests with the plates in them. And everybody had heat rash. And so when we got back to like our little barracks area a couple days before we went back, and we're done with the training, me and one of my buddies, they had like those, called them water horses. It was basically just a pipe on sawhorses with holes poked in it, and they would turn the water pressure up and it would just fountain out. And we went out in, they're called PT shorts, but they're basically just very short nylon shorts and flip-flops. We just wore only PT shorts and flip-flops, went out, like took a makeshift shower, right? It was just like out in the open in a parking lot. We're just like, this is the best shower I've ever taken in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just remember like being in Mexico, middle of the summer, you get in there, it was a terrible experience, like trying to shower with that. But the worst part is like, you're already sweating by the time you get out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you already feel gross again. So I'm sure both of you, obviously Nick, you just said, but Walker, I'm sure you have a ton of experiences with that. You're like, all right, I'm gonna try to get a little bit clean. And then like in the process, it's just like, what was that even worth the effort? So,
Right.
I think there are certain, not to derail everything we have planned, but I think there are certain things you can do that help you feel better, even though you're not getting clean or luxury, like changing socks, letting your feet air out for a while if you've been hiking for forever, or even just splashing water on your face and in your pits or whatever if you're out sweating all day. Like certain little stuff helps.
I would take a clean pair of socks over a clean pair of underwear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Given the choice, 10 days into a trip, I would choose the clean socks. Clean, dry socks.
So Walker, you probably don't have this exact experience, but Nick, you may. Did you ever go with like, I guess it doesn't have to be a church thing, but did you guys ever go with like a group of friends or something, or like on a field trip or something to like an amusement park? Like like Kings Island or something of that sort. So we would do that. We do that in the summer when I was in youth group, and we had no clue, but we would just immediately rip off the log ride and just soak our shoes and socks in the most gnarly way, like immediately. Yeah. And then we walked the rest of the entire day. We were so dumb, and our feet would just be destroyed for like months after that. Just the blisters and everything from it. You are absolutely right. I would 10 out of 10 times I would take, like if I was in a situation and needed one or the other, I could only get one. Give me the clean socks. We'll work through whatever else comes our way.
No, 100,000%. Trench foot is so serious. Not that you're going to get trench foot on a church trip to an amusement park, but like,
you're walking like 20,000 steps though in like the nastiest wet socks, and you're not stopping the entire time, right? Like you're keeping your shoes on, your socks are soaked, you're not thinking about it. You're going from ride to ride to ride, trying to knock out as many as humanly possible.
As an adult, if that happened on a trip with my kids, I would go to whatever nearest souvenir shop and buy the cheapest pair of flip-flops and just wear those around for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it'd be better to walk around 20,000 steps in flip-flops with dry feet than, in my opinion.
Probably, yeah. And I hate flip-flops. I don't own a pair of flip-flops, and I'd still do that.
Yeah. I haven't in a long time, but I used to have the great tan line right there on there. So, well, boys, we've talked enough about all that randomness. So let's get into that was kind of topic zero. Just want to kind of get an idea of like what your guys' prep process for a big day. So we'll talk about my trip, I'm sure, when I get back in a few weeks. But topic number one, Nick, you gave me a vague sports ball. I asked you what we were talking about. You said sports ball. There's a lot going on in the world of sports right now. And so, my friend, I turned it over to you to lead us down that path.
Yeah. As you know, I went to the Indiana Hoosiers football game against the Nebraska Cornhuskers this weekend. I know we really haven't talked a lot about sports. I think, Saxon, I know you follow a little bit, certain teams and stuff. I'm assuming Walker doesn't really care about sports.
Is that college or professional football?
Yeah. Indiana University is, yes, that's college.
Sure, okay.
It's a university.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I just dabble in a lot. So mostly race cars, a couple of the Indiana teams, Michigan, professional football, a little bit of baseball this year. But I know Saxon has a little bit of a connection to Nebraska.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. It's been fun. This is the weirdest sentence I think I'll say the entire time that we're recording this podcast. It's been fun to be an Indiana Hoosiers football fan this year. Historically, the worst program in college football, like
Really?
the most losses or the fastest to a certain amount of losses, which I think still equates to the most losses in college football history. Just every single year, it's like, all right, we're going to turn things around, and they win like a couple of games against nobody schools and then get destroyed by everybody. So their coach got fired last year, and they hired this new coach, Coach Kurt Signetti, came from JMU. Everybody's like, okay, he's the guy. And so me and all my friends are saying, yeah, okay, we've heard that the last three coaches, what's going to happen? I'll tell you what's happened. IU's 7-0. They're top of the
Whoa.
Big Ten. Yeah. They haven't.
That is a feat in and of itself.
Right.
If you don't have
That
any.
is very impressive. I don't know anything about
They're getting into the heart of Big Ten schedule. So they're going to have a couple of big tests coming up, namely Ohio State. Probably Michigan's going to be tougher than
you
most
mean
of the
the
games.
Ohio State University?
No, I mean Ohio State. One of the Ohio universities.
And Ohio University.
Yeah, and
And
Ohio
Ohio
University. I don't know which one, Miami or something. Yeah, so
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, they haven't trailed a single second this season. There are only this is fun trivia as well. There are only two teams in college football that haven't trailed at all this season and are both 7-0. It's Indiana University and Army. Which historically Army's been not a great football team as well. Usually the big game is like the Army Navy game or Army Air Force, just the branches, battling against each other. So it's been exciting. So everybody's been talking about prior to this past weekend, Indiana University hasn't played anybody. They've run up the score on all these teams because they're, all these teams are cupcake games or whatever. Nebraska before Saturday had a top 10 defense in the nation. They hadn't given up any rushing touchdowns, just all the stuff. So everybody's saying, yeah, IU, but Nebraska. And then IU proceeded to kick the piss out of Nebraska to the tune of 56-7 with five rushing touchdowns. And the entire second half, their starting quarterback didn't play because he hurt his hand. So it was just like
quarterback or
yeah. IU's starting quarterback. Their backup quarterback is the younger brother of Trace Jackson Davis, who played on the IU basketball team a couple years ago. The son of Indiana Pacers legend Dale Davis. In case anybody listening cares about that, but yeah, it's been fun. Actually, IU is one of the very few teams to be ranked in football and preseason ranked in basketball as well in the top 25. And so right now, here's another fun thing to say. Right now, Indiana University football is ranked higher than Alabama.
Oh, that's fun. That's great.
So it's been a good time watching IU football. Professional football for me also has been great. The Detroit Lions it
really has
doing really well. Pretty close game on Sunday. They ended up winning at the last minute, or the last second walk-off field goal, basically by a kicker who 18 months ago was a brick salesman. He thought his NFL career was over. The Lions ended up needing a kicker, signed him in the offseason or whatever. And, now he's winning games for a team that's 5-1. With a pretty good shot at winning their very tough division, possibly going to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, sports are fun. Also, Formula One came back this weekend. It was a great race in Austin, Texas, at Circuit of the Americas.
Made my traffic fucking hell on Saturday, so that was fun.
You should have just stayed and watched the race.
Ugh, I'm not paying for that.
Just stick around.
Maybe one day. If somebody pays for it, I'll go, but I'm not paying for it. It's so expensive.
Of the three races in the United States, the one in Austin is crazy affordable. The other two are not, mostly because they're downtown Miami and on the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good luck. And then the rest of the races are around the world. I think some of them are pretty affordable if you live in the area, but like traveling to Belgium is kind of tough for a lot of people in the United States. It's hard to get to Shanghai or maybe Australia if you want to go to the one in Australia. Then they, of course, race in places like Monaco and Dubai, so or Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just been a good time to be watching sports and having fun. I'm not betting any money. I have some buddies who are always like, "Oh yeah, I got this parlay going."
Yeah.
Like, good for you, man. Good luck. Also, the Indiana Pacers professional basketball team starts tomorrow.
Let's go.
Um,
Is that
NBA
regular
season? Yep. Regular season, I think, starts tonight overall, but the Pacers start tomorrow, and then their first home game's on Sunday.
So you've led me to something I saw online. I saw some guy has a 4-pick parlay, and I don't do any sports betting. I have no interest in it at all. I have
It's the
buddies who
worst. It's
try to do
ruining
whatever.
watching sports for me, but yeah.
So he wagered $600 on this for the NHL championship, the Florida Panthers, which I know you probably love,
Cougars,
to win, which they did on April 8th of 2024. So he placed this before April 8th.
Yeah.
He placed it for Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters.
Oof,
hit
nice.
That April 11th. So that was just a few days later. So he was on a hot streak immediately.
Yeah. That
he
had to feel
for
good.
Wimbledon this past year, Carlos Alcaraz to win it.
That's good.
That was, he won that on July 1st. And now he has an opportunity by November 4th for the New York Yankees to win the World Series. The Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers are in the World Series. He has the opportunity. Now, boys, I want to present you the predicament that he is in.
Oh, they'll give you a hefty cash out before
this man has a button on his phone that if he presses it, he immediately gets $329,432.17.
Yeah. If he doesn't,
I don't know what it. I don't know. Oh, so if he doesn't and wins, it will pay out $742,000 or $742,500.
Let it ride.
I'm hitting the button every time.
Hit the button. You have a button on your phone.
I'm hitting the button.
That has $300,000.
It's like
nah.
No, it's not more than half. But it's like if it was 10x, if it was 20x, even maybe let it ride.
I'm letting it ride.
2x, not a chance. $300,000 is life changing amounts of money.
Yeah, I'm throwing that thing. I'm investing that thing immediately, and that'll be at $742,000 quickly.
Oh yeah, no, because I mean, like,
I'd lose it. I'd spend it all so fast. I wouldn't even be able to buy the car that I want to buy with $300,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm letting that ride. The Yankees are hot. They have Stanton and Judge.
Are they hotter than the Dodgers though? So everything I'm getting is like third party. So
same.
one of my buddies at work, he just started a couple months ago, but him and I share the same office space, and he was a Mets fan, so he was keeping me up to date with everything. And from what I've understood, they went on a hot run there, but kind of fell short there with the Dodgers. But it sounds like pretty much anyone would fall short to the Dodgers. They've been putting up so many runs. They're just pure like offensive powerhouse, what it sounds like. So
yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm not super tuned into the intricacies of the Dodgers and Yankees bullpens and batting lineups, but I think I'm
not either, which is why I'm hitting that.
And you know what? If you also stand to gain, I think if the Yankees go on to win like game 1 and 2, his buyout will probably be even more than
so you
whatever the $300,000 is.
But if they lose,
that's gonna go down. Then you let it ride.
So that is the interesting thing about the dynamic nature of sports betting nowadays, where I remember sitting there with so it was before betting was legal. I won't say any names because I have no idea what I don't know any of the intricacies of this, but It was before sports betting was legal in Kentucky. Okay. So here in Louisville, there's a walking bridge that goes over the Ohio River to Indiana. And it was legal in Indiana. So we walked over there. My buddy, he's sitting there and he's placing bets feverishly while we're over there. So it's just football, football Saturday early in the day. He's just slamming bets, just putting whatever. And he's not putting a ton of money, but he's just dropping. I mean, he probably dropped $50 total across like an assortment of games, whatever he's doing and stuff. So no clue how he's doing whatever. And if you have it, and if it's a situation where you're not putting yourself in danger, and I think it's key, like for anyone who's out there who's doing something like that, like placing bets and stuff, having communication. If you have a partner, having communication with that individual and like making sure they know that it's happening. I think the worst thing that could happen is if you got into a situation where you're gambling and trying to keep it a secret, because that is just vitriol for a relationship. But he wasn't. His fiance / wife, I can't remember if they were married at the time, was right there next to him, like understood that was happening. So fairly harmless, but it was just funny how we had to walk physically into Indiana for him to place the bets. Because even if he could, I don't even know if like the whole VPN thing works with the sports.
It doesn't.
Stuff of that
I think I tried before, like right before Indiana legalized.
Yeah.
I bet a little bit when we first got it, and I'll tell you when I stopped. I had put a couple bets on a NASCAR race, which is potentially the dumbest thing you could bet on because of the nature of NASCAR races.
Yeah.
And I think I had total like $50 in, and a couple of my first two bets were like the guys were out of the top 10 or something. They weren't going to give me any money, but I had Kevin Harvick driving the number 4 Busch Light car. And if he would have won, I was going to win like 250 or something. And he was like first place, 10 laps to go. Somebody crashed him. And I was so mad that I just deleted. I was like, that's it. I'm done. Yep. I'm not, I lost $50. That's it. I'm done doing this. No more.
Yeah.
But I do have friends like, my buddy Alex will put like 25-cent wagers on ridiculous parlays, like 7-leg parlays. That'll pay out. So
I think that's
$70 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not losing anything, but if I win, I get like $60 or whatever. I buy a bottle of bourbon or something like that.
Yeah, sprinkle a little. It's just the compounding nature of it all, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like when someone like, the house always wins, right? They're always going to get theirs every time. So when I'm driving down the interstate and I see 7 different billboards for all these different sites, and they say, "Hey, you give us $5, we'll give you $200 worth of bets."
Yeah.
Again, it's the classic too good to be true. You're about to get burnt.
It's not too good to be true. You're getting that money in bets, but the problem is that almost everybody ends up spending more money than that.
Exactly.
Once those bets are. So like you could work the system for that $200 of free bets and cash out when you're ahead, but nobody does.
Yeah.
Well, most people don't.
Sure. It's just kind of an interesting thing. So, but yeah, it sounds like it's a fun time to be a sports fan right now. I enjoy sports and stuff, but I find that my favorite times, obviously, playoffs or about any sport. Obviously, that's great. NFL playoffs are a fantastic time to just try to chime in, cue in, whatever. Ever since I got away from playing fantasy football, my desire, like I will try to each week catch some of the Colts game, do whatever, but they're hard to watch right now. Like they're getting wins, but oh man, they're hard to watch. It's just trying to figure out
I agree
what they're doing. So they're winning in the ugliest ways, which you could say at the end of the season. I mean, if you got more wins than losses, it don't really matter how you got them. I mean, getting any wins in the NFL is, a pretty awesome feat, but just when Detroit's making it look so pretty. And
yeah, I can't wait to go to the Colts Lions game next month. I think it's the end of next month.
Well, the thing that goes crazy, like the Colts played the Steelers, and in our Discord server, L posted, said, "I can't wait for the Steelers to go whatever it was 4-0 or whatever."
Yeah,
and I think I was with Heather, and I was like, that was just an unforced error. Right. She didn't have to say anything. because if the Colts win, that makes her look bad. You know what I mean? Like she eats crow at that point.
Oh, she
If
did.
they lose, the Colts were supposed to lose, so it didn't matter anyways.
Right.
And then the Colts end up beating the Steelers, and I was just all I did was just hit her with a little reply to that tweet with just a smiley face. Oh, I think I might have sent the blue mascot thrusting in the air.
The rest. Yep. Best mascot in professional sports, in my opinion. It was fun. I went to the Colts Rams game last year with my dad, and I was just excited because Matthew Stafford has been one of my favorite players. He played for the Lions for a long time. He's I think a very underrated quarterback. He just never had a good opportunity in Detroit because the team stunk for years. They had one of the best wide receivers of all time in Calvin Johnson and still couldn't get anywhere. But so he was playing with the Rams and the Colts were winning in the first half. And, I'm cheering for the Colts, but I think we've talked about it in the server before. At this point, I'm kind of more like I like enjoying watching good players play. The people who get really upset about their team losing or whatever, starting fights in bars because 20-year-old kids didn't play well enough at football or whatever, to me, that's ridiculous. I hate it. But yeah, the Colts were winning first half, and I'm like, Matt Stafford's about to go off. Watch this. My dad's like, yeah, right. And then he picked the Colts secondary apart so hard, came back and won that game. It was a good time.
Yeah, it's fun. I remember the last little thing for me on sports ball was I just remember when the Colts were playing and going, I mean, you got Pato back there, and he's just him and Tom Brady just going after each other. And I remember when they made it to the Super Bowl, the year they actually end up winning, we had this tri-level house. And so we were watching on the middle floor. I just remember as a kid, just like, as soon as they beat the Patriots, I think it was AFC Championship. It was either the championship or the divisional round.
That interception yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just whenever it was sealed, I just remember our house erupting and like jumping down. It was like 7 stairs down to the floor, and like just jump, like as a kid, like like going crazy and stuff. So yeah, it was sick. So there are some high highlights, and I'm sure my dad would prefer if I was a little more invested into the sports ball side of things. But unfortunately for me right now, that's just not where I'm at. So if I get a man cave all set up, maybe I could do that. But well, boys, that has been our sports ball talk for the night. Now I'm transitioning over. This is something that Walker, you just sent to our group chat, and you said, I want to talk about open world survival games. And you said this was spurred on by the reveal. And I actually didn't watch this, but the reveal trailer for Subnautica 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a trailer. Maybe there wasn't, like just like a little bit, but not even open world. Honestly, just like Subnautica. I was opening it up for you all to talk about it, but I'm just feeling really excited for Subnautica. I mean, there's a lot of open world games. There's many really excellent ones, but I think Subnautica just does it so well. And for those of you who don't know, you crash land on an ocean planet. There's no dirt, and you just have to survive. One of those craft stuff out of the bits you find in the ocean. But they really just get this. It really becomes like a horror game, right? Because you got to go deeper and deeper and deeper to get the better resources. And so you start out in this like really sunny, shallow area, and it's all peaches and roses and happiness, and then you stray too far and just get swallowed by a leviathan.
Well,
And I think many people who've played the game still remember that, and I think that was just a very unique and well done game. It's received much critical acclaim, and
you can play it in VR.
Yeah, which is just horrifying.
It's so crazy.
It's just horrifying. It's a great game. It's a ton of fun. They've got a lot of really neat things that you can build, and submarines to drive around. Just really scratches an itch for me. So I was feeling so excited when I saw that.
So what was it that they actually revealed? Because I thought that Subnautica 2 was already out. Was it not?
So that was Below Zero. That is the second game.
Gotcha.
That one's a little different. It's good still, but it's a little bit more. It's got a bit of land section to it, which I think is sacrilege. And it doesn't have the same um, uh, ships, I guess, submarines, which is like the biggest, and it's a little smaller. And the best
Yeah.
part of Subnautica 2 is when you like finally craft the giant submarine. It's not even that giant, but you can like park your smaller boat inside your larger boat.
Mm.
Yep.
Fucking hits.
I
It's the
like
best.
in Below Zero. I liked how they had the little submersible, and
Truck?
you
Yeah.
could add cars to the back of it. Basically, like turn it into a train. So you'd have different compartments where they serve different purposes, and so you would just have this little train of a submersible going around underwater, and you could like run in and out of the compartments as you
Yeah.
needed.
Huh.
That was in fact a great design. I loved it, but I was just so mad that they didn't have the Cyclops.
Yeah,
Um, I get why they didn't. It's a great game in its own right, lots of fun.
it looked
But
great.
I'm really excited for them to take another swing at the recipe because it's just a good recipe. And there's tons of open world games,
Yeah,
tons and tons of open world survival crafting games, but I have yet to play one that I found to be as satisfying as
same.
Subnautica.
Sax,
It's
I don't
just
think it was so much a revealed trailer. They had just like, wasn't it like in the Xbox something
It's like a partner thing, right?
yeah, they just revealed that it was coming. And then
Oh, okay.
I was feverishly searching and found a couple forums or whatever, and a thread on Twitter with the company that's making it, and they took a screenshot of the background of that like clip that they provided when they said Subnautica 2 is coming, and they're like, is this like new a new biome or whatever? And they just put like an emoji, just like I don't know, like yes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a recycled photo from
Oh,
the
that's
old
cool.
games. Yeah. I'm also very excited. That was, I think I've said it before, that was a game that I found during COVID when we were stuck at home, and I was like, oh, I don't have much to do. And then there were nights where I wasn't going to bed till like 3 or 4 in the morning because I'm like, oh, I gotta get down there, get one more thing, and make a stuff. And yeah,
So the
because you
company that makes Subnautica is known as Unknown Worlds. Did they also make Below Zero? Was that kind of
yes
just like a
Mhm.
side quest for? Okay,
yeah no
you
they
know,
did
sometimes they'll like license that. You know, like companies will like
no
license or IP or something like that.
No, they made it.
Gotcha.
And it was good. It was a great game. They were trying some other things. I'd love to see something like the truck return. That was so fun. The sea truck, because you can
Yeah,
stack these compartments like Nick was saying, and that's a cool mechanic. But it never had the gravitas of piloting the big submarine um, in the
yeah.
same way. And
There
it's
was
just good.
they had a lot of new like fauna and flora, I guess, in the game. So like the what do they call them? They weren't were they called sea monkeys? I don't think they were called sea monkeys,
Yeah,
were
no,
they?
they were the sea monkeys.
Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think so. Yeah.
they were like these little creatures that would come up, and if you're holding an item and you're using it, if they got too close to you, they would steal it, swim away, and you had to like chase after them and try and get it back. And if you found their nests like down in the wild, there would be random objects down there that you could
Yeah.
collect that would help you out, stuff like that. It
I
was good.
I honestly think like the best part of the recipe is that in a lot of open world games, you're sort of just wandering, and that's not the case for Subnautica, but like the fact that you have an O2 meter,
Yeah,
like and you have to that time pressure above everything else, I think really adds like a continuous sense of urgency, right? And so that
right.
really, you have to do things in fits and starts, and instead of making it like, oh god, I have to go back, you're pushing a little bit. There's all a constant sense of, I don't know, real quote unquote, danger, um, that I just don't find to be present in other survival games. It makes it feel more survivally, I guess.
Well, and
Um,
even in late game when you have like all the upgrades and your O2 runs out, like basically never, at that point you're in deeper biomes with bigger threats, and you're trying to focus more on navigating, not getting murdered while trying to
right.
collect stuff.
Yeah. They just did a really good job. They had the right blend
God dang
of
it!
stress
I'm gonna have to reinstall
and pressure and like
it. Do a fresh run.
building. The everything's creative, and you can build these awesome bases because there's the base building element, and then
Oh my god.
you know,
I forgot about like I built mostly just out of necessity, right? Didn't get too crazy about designing, but I saw so many videos and stuff online of people with just the craziest bases built underwater, and like and they even went as far as you could only put a certain amount of things in your base right before you had to build more platforms because it was too much. And then all the stuff you have inside running, you had to build more power supplies. There are various different ways to power it. And so, yeah, some of them got really crazy.
yeah,
Oh, it's,
you had to like collect biomass to fuel things or build a
yep.
nuclear reactor. There's all the standard. I mean, then they did it really well, but a lot of the standard crafting stuff. But I maintain that the like the the ways that they put impetus on the player to like keep moving forward from a moment to moment basis with the oxygen, and
Hmm.
from a like go deeper rather than explore outward. I mean, like you do explore outward, but like the it's just different going having to go deeper, and in the sense of this escalation and a continuity. They just did a
Gets
great job.
darker. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
going down to the bottom biomes, it's like super dark. And then you get to a spot where there's a bunch of bioluminescent stuff. So you can still see, but not as well. And crab squids.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, they just did a great job. I have nothing bad to say about that game, and I'm feeling very excited. And oh, by the way, it's like $30.
yeah,
Um, so they're not gouging anybody. And Subnautica 2 is going to be early access, so you can give them your
I think
whatever price they're going to charge.
the
I don't
opinions.
doesn't
Yeah,
really matter. I will pay it.
Yeah, I
and
think I'll probably wait though. Like, because I did Subnautica early access, I did Below Zero early access before the plot was fully fleshed out. They started continually adding features and improvements, which is nice. But like, I think at some point I would rather just wait for the full product, so I'm not
I don't
like
know if
getting
I
halfway
can.
through. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have the self control, but
she's
we'll
you
see.
want to
Yeah.
the it brings to mind like some of the other games that I've played that they just get it. Like the first game is great, the second game is amazing. For one from me recently that comes to mind is I don't know if you guys ever play Remnant from the Ashes. So it's kind of like Dark Souls with guns, not as punishing as Dark Souls, but kind of the same idea, similar iframe dodging, things of that sort, which I love aspects of. But just um, first game was very gritty. Um, they had a vision, they really went after it. The second game was very polished and came out to really good reviews when it came out. I played a lot of it. I'm actually not sure how much time I spent in that, but I know myself, Luke, Spartan, Deku even hopped in with me for a little bit, just kind of playing around with it, and it was one of these things where it just kind of took over my attention, and I was like, you know what, this is sick. I played 83 hours of Remnant 2 when it came out. So it was like a looping situation where you go in and you have this hub world, and you kind of um, you go back similar to other games where you're going back. You have NPC vendors and you're trying to upgrade them and do whatever when you're there with them, and then upgrading your guns, finding the materials, hopping back in, and the world would just change by little as you're moving through everything. And so but it was just an interesting upgrade from the first game, hopping in doing. So I think that is all I have to say about Remnant 2. You boys good? Sounds like we're all hyped about. I'm looking for games to install to take with me. So I got me a little handheld. I actually picked up the ROG Ally X um,
Nice.
thing. I'm gonna take that with me on this trip for some of the downtime, some of the time where I need to decompress, get away. So I was thinking about maybe I'll throw Subnautica on there. I don't know if that'd be good, the handheld experience, whatever, but I'm gonna
I
throw
don't think
Probably.
it
I
something.
would
mean,
be
like,
bad.
no. I mean, I think I'd give it a
I think
try.
I already own it, so
I'm interested to hear how you like that, because I've been eyeing one of those things for a while. I just haven't been able to
Same.
justify it. So
Yeah.
I've only played Vampire Survivors on it so far, which Vampire Survivors goes hard.
Yeah.
Love that game so much. If you've not played it, if you're out there and you've not played, or you're like, hey, I'm not really into video games, but these guys keep talking about video games, pick up Vampire Survivors. I think right now it's on sale for like $3.49 or something like that on Steam. And they're about to do a Castlevania DLC coming
374.
374. So it's
Yep.
really close. It is a game that you play with one stick. If you have a controller, you will use the left stick, and you will pick up different power-ups as you'll start with a character, and let's say your character has a whip, and that whip will over time occasionally will shoot out in front of you and behind you. And then as you kill more and more enemies, they drop gems on the ground. You pick up those gems and you get upgrades. And some of the upgrades can be that your whip will whip faster, and then you'll kill more enemies. And as you do that, you will progress. You'll get chests, and then you'll unlock new things like throwing knives and the Holy Bible, which will circle around you. My favorite power up is garlic, which just emits from you a barrier that will damage and kill enemies around you, and it just compounds on itself over time. So I love Vampire Survivors. I put a lot of time into it. It recently released for the PlayStation 5 for the first time. It wasn't on there for a very long time. Released on there, and so people have been discovering that again, and then they're doing a full-fledged Castlevania
Nice.
DLC coming up. I believe,
awesome.
if not on Halloween, it's right around there. So
Good.
Walker,
it's a good
just
time
so
to play
you
Vampire
know,
Survivors.
on the Steam and Epic Game Stores, there's a Subnautica 2 teaser trailer with some screenshots too.
I actually put it on my wish list while we were having this conversation, and I was
Okay.
waiting till we finished to watch that. I'm very excited. I to close out the conversation, I think it's a great game, Sax. I think you should play Subnautica 1. I'm sure it'll be good on. I don't think it's a very intensive game at all, and it's a good time sink for those long trips. So,
Sweet.
Great
Oh,
game. Super excited.
That's good to know. So
Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania, October 31st.
let's go.
Sick.
Let's go. So yeah, if you've not played Vampire Survivors, or if you haven't played a video game in a long time, this is also in pixel art form. So there is a mobile version of Vampire Survivors. Never played it, but you can play it on pretty much any device you have. So I would imagine only needing one joystick to move with a controller. I would imagine it's going to be very simple to control on mobile as well. Honestly, seems like a match made in heaven. So
it's got it's good old school arcade vibes.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And it runs great on anything that I've played it on. I have played it on my phone. I've played it on, obviously played it on my PC, and I've played it on the Ally. Runs great. So not very intensive in and of itself either. So, well, boys, I have a final topic for us tonight, and it has a little bit of moral vibes. I'm just interested to hear where your guys come from, what your history with it and story. But I'll give the title of the topic, what I presented to you boys yesterday, lay down a little groundwork, and then I want to hear your feelings on it. And then I want to share a story to close us out that I'm really excited to tell you guys, because I don't think I've shared it with either of you. Nick, you may have heard a little bit of it, because I think it might have happened around like when we were working together, but it's probably been a long time if you have.
Yeah. Let me give a disclaimer just in case. I don't foresee this happening, but just in case this is being played in the vicinity of children who are young and impressionable. And you don't want them to find out things that you may or may not have stretched the truth on, probably pause until your kids are not near you. We don't want to ruin anybody's holidays, if you know what I'm saying.
I literally was thinking about that earlier, and I appreciate you saying that. I hope that would have came back to me. But yes, if there are children in the area, not in a explicit nature, but in a sensitive nature, this may be the time to just turn the pod off. But please come back, because I promise, for the adults out there, this is for you. So we good? Good. We got all the disclaimers out there. You boys feel good with that? All right. So our topic for tonight is, or my topic for tonight is, the idea of telling white lies and where we toe the line, like how we feel about towing the line on stretching the truth. Okay. So the prompting for this was a very funny tweet. It made me literally laugh out loud, that Hala sent in our Discord server. And it is, I don't know if this is true or not. It could be fabricated, but it was a very funny concept. And it is in r/Fortnite BR, which I don't even know if that's a real Reddit. So like the whole prompting, I don't know if this is a true post, so don't go searching for it. But the concept of it, the title or the subject line of this post is it true that Fortnite stops working after bedtime? And the content of it says, I want to play Fortnite past 9 p.m., but my mom says I can't because the game stops working then. But like, how? And why does it turn off after then? And then Tommy7154 says, yep, it turns off so everyone can get a good night's sleep. I think they just unplug it somewhere. I don't know. And I love that because it's just like, I don't know if that's true. Like if that's a true situation, whatever. That's like so sweet, so honest, whatever. But if it's not, it's still classic, and it still kind of plays to this concept of like, there's just sometimes where it's just easier to just play into something, right? Like you see someone going along with something, or you know that like a conversation's not worth having right now, and it's like, we're going to get into the nuance or the classic game that kids love to play. Just why, why,
Mhm.
why,
Oh boy,
why?
7-year-olds are why machines.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to nip it in the bud and just like, this is why, and just give them something, and then you can kind of fix it in post, as we've said a couple of times tonight. So, Nick, I want to get your opinion on this as a father and as someone who has children in your house, and just to see if there was anything you wanted to share on this subject. So,
Well, all the big ones, major ones, so like Santa, Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, that kind of stuff we go
wait, what?
along with, right? Um, oh shoot. So like I think, there obviously is that part of you that's like, is this gonna cause a problem later? Like I don't think most teenagers or whatever age you are when you figure it out, we don't know if Riley's figured it out yet or not. I'm assuming she has. She's almost 13. Um, and I know for a fact she has friends that have older siblings, and there's no way that all of her friends
Oh
still
yeah,
believe, right? But she hasn't said anything to us, and she hasn't said anything to Reagan. Um, I don't think you really run the risk of a child at that age having a full blown existential crisis about like, what else have they lied about? It's not government conspiracy level MK
you
Ultra
say
stuff.
that, but hold on, we'll
That's fair. It hasn't
we're gonna
been
get
my
there here in a little
experience.
bit. Yeah.
Um, I like to do fun stuff mostly with Reagan because it's easier. She doesn't really take it to heart, but like, when they're little and they get hurt and it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. They're just upset, they skin their knee or something. I'm like, all right, well, guess we're going to have to cut it off. And they're like, no. Recently Reagan's been, her birthday's coming up this weekend and she's been counting down. She's like, I can't wait till the 27th. And we're like, what's the 27th? She's like, it's my birthday. And so at one point, a couple of weeks ago, I started telling her, I think we're going to skip your birthday this year and you can turn 8 next year. And she was like, no, I can't go to third grade if I'm 7. And I said, well, you're going to do second grade again and just be 7 for another year and do second grade again. She's like, no, I'm not. So every day she's like, I can't wait 5 more days. And I'm like, 370 days because you're not going to be 8 until next year. Or like we talked about when we were in Louisville, what was it,
This
2
was
weekends ago?
classic.
So my parents spend half of their time in Florida, and we're going to go down there after Christmas and hang out. Just, sometimes we go to Disney. My stepmom is a Disney adult. She's got annual passes. So they like to take the kids. They don't do it because we like to go, which most of the time I don't because it's a mess. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to go hang out. And so my stepmom had sent me an email with like our flight plans and all that stuff. And I mentioned it to Kristen, and I guess Riley overheard. So she was asking us all day before we drove down to Louisville to see the pumpkins. And we're like, we're not going anywhere. And then Kristen and I ended up telling her that we are going somewhere as if it were our honeymoon trip and that the kids weren't going. She's like, well, who am I going to stay with? And so we did different iterations of you're staying with your grandparents, or Riley, you're going to your dad's house, or we're hiring a babysitter or whatever. And so the whole time we were in Louisville, she was, am I going? Just let me go. Please, I'll be good. I won't be mean to Reagan. Like, just all this stuff. And we're like, no, you're not going. So drop it. I think we've conceded because obviously they're going with us, but I didn't realize it was supposed to be like a surprise. You know, we've gone so many times and it's kind of a normal thing. Actually, last year we didn't go to Florida at all, and that's abnormal since my parents moved down there because we had a lot going on. But yeah, so I think we've conceded now, but it was just fun to. What are you talking about? You guys aren't going. You're getting a
Oh,
babysitter or whatever.
the
She was
drama,
worked
man.
up, dude.
The drama. And the problem is the way she was being dramatic about it is the same stuff that like Heather would do. Like, so when I guess this is along the same lines, and then Walker, I want to get your opinions on this, but like, so Heather wanted to have, I don't know, you can only have so many graduation parties, even if you graduate that many times without it becoming like, okay, we get it. Like, we get it.
Or
So she had her open house for high school, right? And then have an open house adjacent thing for college, like for undergrad. Then she goes to med school or dental school rather. And so she has all 4 years of that. And then we moved to Louisville. Like it was overlapping. So we moved to Louisville end of April. And then, she graduates sometime in the middle of May. And we had already moved and it was weird. So we couldn't do anything. And so she had always said, like, hey, I wanted, I would love to have some sort of graduation party, be able to do whatever. And it just didn't work out. So I just keep it on the down low and just keep it in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, I know she wants to do this. So I reach out to a bunch of people because I knew it wasn't going to be something that we first off, that we wanted to do like an enormous thing, right? Or like invite a ton of people. Because at this point, we're grown adults. Like she's been, been out of high school for over a decade, stuff like that. So it just feels like one of those things where we need to just kind of, I don't know, just kind of let it be what it's going to be. And so we, as we're getting, when we're far out from it wasn't that hard to actually kind of pull things together and not have her know just because I don't say anything. But the closer and closer and closer we get, we were holding it in Indianapolis. So holding it in Indianapolis, like I had to come up with something to get her there, right? Like to find a way to get her from Louisville to Indy and then to get her where we needed to go without her knowing. And the problem was the excuse we used was we were going back for Dougie's birthday. So my cousin's birthday, we were going to go see him. So she's like packing to go, but like with super casual clothes, right? Like,
Yeah.
just some leggings and a t-shirt or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, no, why
No,
don't you put,
we're going to
put something
Ruth's
in there a little
Chris,
nicer or
going to
whatever.
St.
And
Elmo's. You got to pack a nice dress.
I didn't need her to look like, like a ball gown or anything like that. But I knew she was going to, I knew that she was going to want to look nicer than she was planning on looking in that instance. So then that starts kind of, she starts asking questions. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking, things of that sort. And so we did keep it a secret. There are pictures that are out there of how surprised she was when we walked in. It was awesome. And I had all sorts of people from her past, her old bassoon professors, things of that sort. But it was just funny because like the same way that in a very similar vein that Riley was acting when we were at dinner, where she was like just the most drama. Like, I can't believe you keep this from that kind of stuff. That's kind of how Heather was being, like in a joking way, but she's like, I can't believe we've been married for 6 years. I can't believe you're keeping secrets from me. And I'm like, you are going to eat all of these words just in like an hour and a half's time. Like you have no clue. And so, but Walker, what is your, where do you come down on the whole white lies thing? You know, I guess, we can talk about it with kids in general, but just in general, what are your thoughts on this subject?
yeah, I've been reflecting on this actually a lot recently because I hate lying. I have um very strong internal morals that I feel I can't lie even when it is to my own detriment. to do so. Not even like making other people's lives nicer, which is, I think a little different. But if
I got one question for you.
sure.
How do we define lying? Do we define lying as
Okay.
active,
All right,
or
No,
Plato.
it's
or does
passive. No, lying
okay?
by omission is lying, and I won't do that either.
Hold up,
And so,
hold up. What about your work situation? I gotta call you on this. I
you
gotta.
know, it was eating me alive,
I know it
honestly,
was. I
for
know it
months.
was, and I feel like you wouldn't. I feel like it would have. I feel like, and this is just me saying because you're such strong on morals. I feel like you would have felt better about the whole situation. And the only reason I'm bringing it is because we talked about this months
Right,
ago.
a lot,
Like
a
you
lot.
and I talked about this specifically. I was like, I feel like you should just say something because you're a good worker. I know you have high morals, and I know you do that. So I just wanted to bring that circle back, just for not to call you out a little
No,
bit,
no,
maybe.
you're right. You're right, and it was that was hard. I felt like I was lying. I mean, and I consider that I was. Yeah,
And
that's
I
really a
personally think
challenge.
that's a little harsh because I believe there's a separation of personal and professional. Like you don't necessarily have to tell your employer everything that's happening in your personal life as you're trying to figure things out. Sometimes things are happening,
Right.
but I know how you felt about it, and I know you feel this way. So I guess that's why I bring that up because I think that's a very intriguing part if we're being honest about our
It's a
lives
good
and stuff
point,
like
and
that.
it like it was really challenging, and I mean, even a month in advance is kind of a lot, frankly,
Sure.
for this sort of thing. So I mean, it knowing what I know now, I don't know if I'd do it differently. Just from a. I think at the end of the day, it does for me. It does come down to like other people's well being. I'm willing to lie for other people's well being, um, and Chloe needs me to have the job,
Yeah, that's fair.
frankly. So that's at the end of the day what was the deciding factor for me. Um, Lying to kids about stuff that makes them happy, I don't think I'll have any problem with that because that's lying about Santa or whatnot is that's just fun. Um,
Plus, it gives you the opportunity to introduce them to like crushing disappointment because they're going to deal with that for the rest of their life, right? So at
yeah,
some
that's not my
point,
intention. But sure, why not?
no, it's an added benefit.
Added benefit,
There you
sure.
go.
Yeah, no, God, you're talking about Heather and the surprise party. When I was proposing to Chloe, I was trying to get her to come with me for the weekend, and I was like, would you do XYZ? Would you come blank place for the weekend? She's like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, well, have you considered that maybe you should? No, I don't want to. I was like, okay, well, I have booked us a hotel. So you are going to come because you are financially obligated to do so. And that's how we began our marriage.
Nice.
Yeah.
Strong foundation. Really
Yeah.
well.
Well,
And she still didn't realize that she was getting proposed to or whatever because we've been, together for 8 years and 7 years or whatever. And she's like, is he going to do it? Nah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
So that was the long con there is just don't propose and she'll never think you're going to propose. Easy, super easy.
Can
Nothing's
confirm. I can confirm that philosophy.
Yeah, yeah. So it works, just works.
yeah. That
But
was
that was even tough too to do that.
yeah.
I didn't end up lying. I was like, mostly because it didn't work. I would have kept it a secret otherwise. But hmm, is a secret a lie? Is a question. What do you
Well,
guys think about
I I'm of the opinion that like now, well, at least for the past however many years, if somebody tells me something, they need to assume the liability that Kristen is also going to know this thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, I'm not gonna pretend like you didn't do something to her. All right. If you can't tell us both, don't tell me. I don't want to know. Because she's the first person I'm gonna run and tell. And likewise, if any of her friends are listening, which I highly doubt, maybe her sister, if you tell Kristen something, she's gonna fucking tell me. Okay? She will. I don't have to ask her to. I do
Oh yeah.
sometimes say, "Who are you talking to? What's going on?" And she'll be all flustered with
Who we
whomever.
texting? That's what we say all the time in our house. Who we
Yeah,
text.
yeah. She's just as soon as she knows something, she'll come and tell me about it. It's just that's just how it goes. We secrets are a shared burden in our household. So um, that aside, if I have a good friend text me and tell me something in confidence, even if I have other friends that I know them just as well, I won't bring that up at all to anybody else unless the person who told me first brings it up. So, which I've had that happen semi recently. A buddy that I'm in a group text with two of my friends had texted me on the side saying like he was having a hard time with something or whatever. And so we talked about it. I didn't bring it up in the group chat until he did. And I'm like, okay, that's not a thing. I'm not going to put your business out to anybody besides Kristen.
I think it's super valid. I think it's one of those things where like it's healthy to an extent, and I'm talking specifically about the sharing with your partner thing, because I feel like the biggest thing I could say about like having a partner, a life partner, is like you can bounce the raw emotions of whatever you're taking in, like whatever you're facing, like with that person, right? So there are times where Heather will come to me or I'll come to her with something, right? Like something like that. Maybe it's heavy, maybe it's not, but come to them with it and just get that perspective. And I think the best thing you can do for that person is well, first off, the hardest thing, and this is usually a lot harder for guys than it is for ladies, is to understand, okay, are they asking me for advice, or they just want me to listen? Like, am I like uh, a cushion or like a sound dampener? I'm just receiving this and I'm like, yep, you're right, babe, you're so right. And like, no matter what my feelings are, like, yep, you're right, absolutely. Or like, okay, are we solving this? Because that's just who I am. And like that's kind of what she is for me too. But I think she's just more in tune with that. Like if I'm coming in hot on something or whatever. However, exactly what you said, Nick. I think there's a lot of nuance to that. It's like understanding the relationship between like, okay, I know all of these people, but this person has told me directly this information, and so not bringing that up, and I think that's a big thing to do. Now, to get back to your question, Walker, is like, are secrets lying? I think it depends on the nature of what you're keeping a secret. Now, did I have to lie to Heather to do her surprise party? At the end, I had to stretch the truth, which is getting back to the topic, right? Like the tiptoeing the line. I never once told her that we were going to do X when we were actually doing Y. I
Okay.
said, hey,
Sure.
we're going to see your friend, because we did go back to celebrate Dougie's birthday. And we did go back and we did see the friend I said we were going to see at that place, but omission, right? We're going back to that thing. So I'm I'm kind of the mindset, and I think you nailed it on the head, Walker. It's like having a full context of the situation around you, right? And understanding like the people who this individual thing affects, and do that. But I've been in situations with family and friends and different things where you have so many different people that know so many different things about some sort of subject, and it just creates this like vitriolic situation,
Sure.
this environment to be in. And it's like that's something that I line up exactly with what you're saying, where like I cannot stand lying. I can't stand that. Be honest with what you've done, good, bad, ugly, whatever it's been, and we can work through it. But if you don't have all the information on there, that's at play. But that's going a little deeper than the white lie stuff, I guess. So
Yeah. No,
so
you're right. You're right. At the end of the day, I won't protect myself with any untruth, but if it makes somebody's life easier or protects their secret or whatnot, then I'm willing to stretch into the white lie territory.
yeah, I should have. I just thought of it, but it's something that I liked and something that I'm hoping I will cross paths with again. I think whether I saw it on TikTok or Twitter or something like that. But basically, it was like a teacher had something that they would say. They like to, it was like an elementary teacher, and it's something that they would recite to their kids, like say, hey, is this kind? Like, is the thing you're saying kind? Is this something that you're pointing out about? So is this something that they could change immediately? Like if you go up to someone and you say, hey, like your fly's unzipped, whatever, and you tell them individually, okay, I can zip my fly and it's good. But if you're saying, hey, your haircut is weird, whatever, like, okay, that's not, you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Not helpful. Yeah.
And
Get
so
the clippers
teaching,
out.
I guess you can make it weirder, unless you miraculously can make it better. But it's just the idea, like all of those things, and they kind of align, right? Like I think there's a level of teaching. It's kind of interesting, the idea of like teaching a child like in layers, almost like, hey, like this is like very black and white, whatever. Like this is bad, this is good, and then dialing up. And I think that's something that I actually kind of had to figure out for myself. I'm not sure that we talked a lot about it in my house. My dad, classic saying growing up was like, there's black and white. And, usually when you're in the gray area, that's when things are going awry. And I think at the time I needed to do that, but I feel like I came into adulthood of my own when I realized that there is a lot of nuance to life and a lot of things that people are doing. And I need to be better. I need to kind of open my mind to more of that, if that makes sense, and do that. Um,
Yeah, I agree. Something I'm certainly working on. And I hope everybody listening to our podcast works on that because life is not black and white.
Have you
can
tried
be.
But
psychedelics?
yeah, well, okay, sure. And but that's just like for opinion. Okay, Sax, you've kept us in suspense for long enough. Hit us
I
with the
have.
story.
So we're going to wrap up for tonight. I'm going to get much lighter, and I do want to share this story with you guys. So to give a little bit of context, just set the groundwork. So my parents, they had me, and then they did have a few miscarriages, unfortunately, but there's 10-year age difference between me and my sister. Once she was born. I was in fourth grade. Remember that very clearly. Remember the day she was born, all that stuff. So I have kind of like this point 0.5, maybe like a 0.4%, or like a whatever, like a 40% like experience in the raising process, if that makes sense. So because I had a front row seat to it, I helped a lot with that. I was very close to my sister growing up, and um, love my sister dearly. She's a senior in college this year. She's doing great work. But she struggled with a lot of things as far as like some anxiety stuff growing up, some separation type things, specifically with my mom. And so I promise this is getting lighter. It doesn't sound like it yet. Um, my mom at one point, my sister, she couldn't have been older than 10 probably at this point. Maybe closer to like 8 or 9 at this point. So Nick, to your point, was like, okay, Riley getting 12, almost 13, she certainly has to know or have like,
Right.
she's in disbelief in her own right. But my sister at this point, she was in the heart of the mix of it, right? Like all of her friends. And when I say of it, I mean the Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, like all that stuff.
Jesus.
Just the belief there behind it, the magic of it, all that stuff. She was in the thick of it. And I'm sure half of her class already knew, half didn't. There were hyper religious people at her school that never, because their parents wouldn't let them partake in anything of the sort. So they didn't believe. And I think at that point, it just kind of like adds fuel to the fire, right? So, like,
Mm,
you have so many kids that believe and do whatever. So I say all of this to say there was one day where my mom decided, it's like, hey, I'm going to go finally for the first time in my sister's life. I'm going to go on a trip. And she was going to fly. She had a friend that lived, I think, in South Carolina. She's going to go visit. And she hops on the plane and leaves. And my sister's hysterical. She's never been away from my mom. She's never like in this capacity, right? Like she might have stayed the night somewhere for one night or whatever, but this was going to be like a week and a half. This was a longer trip, and she's hysterical. She knows it's been on the calendar. My sister's been so anxious about it for so long. And so for some reason, we thought it'd be better, right? My dad and I thought it'd be better. We're in his truck. We go and we park in just like whatever it was, the commuter lot or whatever it is at the airport where you can just free go in, park, flat lot, and you can watch the planes take off. And so we're sitting there watching. My sister is just hysterically bawling in the backseat. Just at this point, it's obnoxious. It's too much. She's been going for so long. She's gonna make herself sick. Like she's been crying so hard.
That would make me mad. Was your dad enraged?
It was.
Yeah.
And she was bawling like that through the airport. And my dad's a very modest like you don't want that attention, right? Like the idea, like you're carrying a child through a public place that's freaky, like that.
Yeah.
And so we get her in the car, whatever. And my dad's like, best intentions. He's trying his damnedest to get my sister to shut up, frankly. And we're sitting there and we're watching the planes take off. And I think at some point my dad just says, "Oh, that's your mom's plane. Whatever, we're going home." And they're talking. And my dad's like, "What?" He's like, "We're here. Your brother and I are here with you. Why are we not enough?" Basically is where he gets to, right? Because like we're like near the breaking point here, boys. And she says to my dad, she basically says like, when you're not always here, and when I'm with mom all the time and stuff like this sort, and you're out. And my dad, he coaches. I've talked about this, but he coaches, like he was coaching different sports. So he'd go to work and then he'd go coach football, and that would be some extra money for that season, and then coach baseball and coach wrestling and do that. And he was, he was gone long days. He'd be gone from before 7 a.m., sometimes till 8, 9 o'clock at night, depending on the time of year, whatever. But he was doing it for us, right? Like he was out trying to make money and doing this stuff. But her mind, she just didn't have that context.
Yeah.
So my dad, just having conversation with her, essentially engages and says, well, I'm gone because I'm trying to make money so I can get nice things like that Barbie dream house that you have.
Uh-oh.
My sister, boys, when I tell you, my sister immediately stops crying. Santa got me that. It was over. So my dad's in the driver's seat. I'm in the passenger seat. My sister's sitting directly behind me. I lose it. I am dying laughing harder because I don't know what else to do.
Well, yeah.
He could have saved that. He didn't. Did he make an effort to save that? Because I would have pulled that.
Boys, there was no saving it.
Okay.
When she went from, because, like I said, it's one of these things that gets between there. And the other thing that pissed me right off is Heather and I had stayed up putting that Barbie dream house together my dad's like in his head, he's like, Santa's getting getting the credit for this crap I paid for. And I'm mad because Heather and I spent like 4 hours putting this thing together.
Yeah, stickers and yeah.
Oh, everything. And so immediately stops. And then I think I honestly messed it up because I was laughing so hard. And my sister's like, "Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?" And I just don't say anything. And my dad, I'm sure he tried to save it, do whatever, but there was no saving it.
He just turns on Creed real loud and starts driving home. My gosh.
So then, so essentially the conversation devolves within, I'm not even kidding, within like 45 seconds. What about the Easter Bunny? What about the Tooth Fairy? And like, boys, I don't even know if my mom's off the ground yet. Like we had said that plane was her. I don't even know if she's off the ground yet. So she's just
getting Starbucks at her gate. She hasn't even boarded yet.
She's not even gone yet. So the first thing, as like my sister's literally on my dad's phone, like watching the tracker for her plane. Like when we get home, and as soon as it hits, and as soon as she gets service back, she calls her back, and she just goes into hysterics again.
Oh
my mom can't even understand what my sister's saying, and gets on the phone with my dad, and basically is like, "How in the hell did this devolve so quickly?" And I just felt so terrible.
That's it. I'm flying home. I can't leave you guys alone.
I just felt so terrible for my mom because I'm like, this is the first time. Like
Yeah.
she at this point in life, like she's more well traveled now. She goes and visits friends a lot and does that quite a bit now that we're getting old, now that we're older and such. But at the time, she was not doing anything like that for herself, and I felt so bad because I'm like,
That's like
how do you even enjoy this anymore?
that's the most like Malcolm in the Middle,
Oh yeah,
Midwest family. Mom finally gets to go on vacations ruined because dad accidentally spilled the beans about Santa Claus. And
absolutely. It was the most sitcom, like one of the most
if I ever
sitcom
write a
nights
show,
ever.
that will be an episode.
Yeah, this is it. Your
It
story's getting stolen right
could
now.
not have
I'm
happened
jealous.
more fluidly, and it literally like just everything hit its paces as it went through. So yep, Shayden survived. She figured it out. She did not. She was able to get through her crying fit. We survived with her at home. Made it
She's a
through.
little more grateful for the money that your dad spends on her Christmas presents. It all worked out.
Lord, I hope so. Lord, I hope so. So I
And she
know.
learned about disappointment. And that's the most important lesson.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch of life at that point because she was already disappointed that my mom
Oof.
actually got on the plane. So, but yeah,
Welcome to
boys,
the ride, kid.
that was my grand story about how my sister found out in one fell swoop about Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. So, well, boys, any final thoughts before we close out the night? I appreciate you guys squeezing this in with me one last time before. Just for anyone at home, we don't have. We will miss 1 week of the podcast. Today, actually, we launched a special episode. We talked about it last week. Special episode of what we have dubbed God Roll Radio. This will be our specific video game podcast. So, anytime that we're just doing maybe a filler or maybe a timely specific video game podcast, that will be under that moniker. If you're not into video games at all, I apologize. Just skip those. Do whatever, but we do appreciate you guys listening. Anyone who is listening personally, I know my dad's listening to everything. Nick said his mom may be our biggest fan. Anything, Walker? I haven't heard anyone in your
don't tell
family
Zach.
watching yet or listening yet. So
I'm pretty sure my parents don't love me. Sorry to say.
that's unfortunate. So
Yeah, I
we'll
hate to
work
see
on
it,
that
folks.
next time. Well, boys,
Yeah,
it's been a good
that's it for
time.
our next therapy session. We'll deep dive
Yeah.
into why
We will
Walker
get-
is the reason his
Yeah.
parents got divorced.
Oh well, that happened.
the very final joke I want to say is for anyone who gets it, Heather and I are looking forward to finding Godzilla at the Roman Coliseum. So
Yeah,
for any of
pics.
you, yeah, we will be sure to go see Godzilla curled up at the Coliseum. So thank you if you're still listening, and we'll talk to you next time.